Hello folks and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as always by Shane Brophy, Head of Sport in the Nenagh Guardian. And this week we once again have Eamon Cork, and we're hoping this time the connection is more solid. And as you were saying, a few of your friends were giving you awful jip over it, Eamon.
Yeah, they were slag about paying the bills, so hopefully this time round that's okay.
Well, look, we'll just jump straight into the county final last Sunday, Eamon. It finished up a draw, of course, as everyone knows. Paul Flynn's goal in the second half was key. I thought it was a high-quality game, like really intense. It wasn't always free-flowing, but I thought the quality was very good.
Yeah, like the two best teams are in the final. We said that a few weeks ago. Like you can see the form the whole way through, but to be level 13 times said an awful lot about the game. But even the standard of hurling, the standard of shooting. I was intrigued with just when Ronan sat back in the pocket and Alan Flynn sat back, it forced the players out the field to shoot from distance. And that's what we saw. And both teams got some fantastic scores. Joe Gallagher scored there in the first half. You see Conor Staken. They were all shooting from distance. And Barry Hogan, I don't think did he have one shot to save? And obviously Paul got the goal. There was only one shot in Paddy McCormack. So it was intriguing that way, just the way both teams set up. But as a spectacle, I definitely thought it was a great game. Kiladangan only went ahead. Was it twice in the whole game? So I think both teams will go away going, did we leave something behind? Some players probably played to potential, but overall, it's going to be a fascinating replay.
Yeah, Shane, you probably thought we'd talk about Lorrha's county final first, but I'm afraid we can't. But what did you make of the game? I thought it was cracking stuff, and Willie Connors' equaliser at the end. I thought we deserved another go at this.
Yes, strange enough, I was there in the Orion stand. I don't know whether Ryman was the first. I thought it was muted for a lot of the game. I don't know, it was very cagey, just the way both teams were setting up. Like there were very few goal chances. Lads trying to be. There was very, very little aimless ball sent into either forward line, or you get those sort of 50-50 contests. But definitely after the Paul Flynn goal went in, just the game went up another level. Like in terms of both teams, I think whatever element of what would you say containment or what would you say playing within the game plan really went out the window. They really went for it after that. And look, I just thought at the final whistle that I thought Thurles looked slightly more dejected than Kiladangan. Looked that they had more of the lead. I thought they were on the front foot for a lot of it. And definitely, if you were to say that the two teams who would be happier with the replay, it was Kiladangan.
Yeah, like in terms of the quality of county finals, like I'm not saying like in terms of open, it wasn't the most open game, but like Tipperary, like these two clubs, like we've got 15 plus players on each side who look physically conditioned, who know how to use the ball. Like it looked, even if we to jump beyond the Tip County Championship, that we've now got a couple of Tipperary teams that can go into the provincials and compete. I just think they both look really strong and well prepared.
They did, as I said, coming through the group stages all along, there were the two teams you would have picked. And I go back to Shane's point. You're right, Shane. I was there myself. The atmosphere was very muted. I don't know, was it that Kiladangan had been in the final last number of years and Thurles, people just the neutrals didn't come out to support it. But you're right, Shane. Like the two teams physically, they're in serious shape. Like it was, and the pace of the game, even with the last 5-10 minutes, there was no give up. The intensity was sky high. But also, I think there could have been a bit of nerves there in the first half too. Yeah. Both teams are probably cagey, not letting go. And then, as Shane pointed out there, when Paul Flynn got the goal, it was just play with that abandon, just go and hurl and see who comes out on top. But I do think, and going back to the point we made a number of weeks ago, we should be very proud of our championship. I actually think in Tipperary, we have the best championship out there. You look at Waterford, you look at Wexford, you look right across the other counties. It's like we have the top 16 teams there, and the Premier Media is so competitive as well. To go back, it's the third draw in 3 years in Tipperary. But we now need to make sure that
fourth final in a row that hasn't finished in 60 minutes, like so.
Exactly. We now need to make sure that whoever comes out of this, we get a run back to what Boris Lee did a number of years ago and get to the All-Ireland Club final. I firmly believe either of these teams coming out will represent Tipperary with honour, because I think we have the players. Both teams have big panels. They have great panels. Yeah. Like look what Thurles are doing at the moment. Their second team, it's phenomenal. It's unbelievable. And Kiladangan, what they have on the bench, bringing on Willie Connors there, and you alluded to it there. Like they have him to come off the bench and a number of other players. So I think the two best teams are in it, but I'd love to see whoever comes out with this now just driving on, doing something special for Tipperary.
Yeah. Who impressed you, Shane, on the Thurles and the Kiladangan sides?
Yeah, I suppose just when my general analysis of the game, I as key as Ronan Maher was throughout the match, I thought the central figure in the second half, in Kiladangan's revival, and I think it's something Kiladangan are going to look at seriously for the replays. Willie Connors, like he was, I thought it was interesting. And when John O'Mara had to go off, that instead of maybe bringing Declan McGrath back from midfield to half back, that Willie went in straight into the half back line. And like we know, Willie is primarily a midfielder or a forward, but they didn't shake up their matchups. They put him in the half back. But I definitely thought in the last 20 minutes when Willie went in as sweeper, it definitely helped Kiladangan in their attacking play. Like he came out with some great ball, and like the one thing Willie Connors has that I say is Noel McGrath-esque. His vision is incredible. Like he never wastes a ball. Like, and I do think that looking to the replay that we know Thurles are going to set up with Ronan as sweeper. Like people were giving out of higher teams allowing Ronan set up a sweeper. Thurles are setting him up as sweeper. Like the only way you stop Ronan being a sweeper is if you play a 7th forward and leave 5 backs to the other side. Like they allowed Cathal Maloney to mark Billy Seymour and let Ronan sit as the sweeper. So I think Kiladangan will seriously look at Willie Connors being their sweeper and allow Alan Flynn maybe to push up the field a small bit. And I just thought Kiladangan used the ball a lot better in the last 20 minutes. They played more of the short ball through the middle. Of course, the goal came through that. Probably one of the one times I think Ronan Maher went missing out of centre back and they got the goal out of it. So just that bit of patience paid off as well when Declan McGrath and Sean Hayes made that burst through the middle. So I think last Sunday, because of how I think Ronan's the ability for him to read the ball definitely hurt Kiladangan because their inside forward line were pretty quiet. Like he was cutting out ball time and again. Definitely, as key to sweepers were the last day, they're definitely going to be key the next day as well.
Eamon, what do you do about, like, obviously you've come up with Brackens have come up against Thurles plenty of times. What do you do about him? Like, do you like the idea of man marking a back, or like? I mean, there's times.
I'll be honest with you. Last year when we played Kiladangan, we Davy O'Shea, and wherever Alan Flynn went, you were following them. Like you just have to sacrifice, but you're taking a chance at the back. And we've always said going into watch Thurles, will someone pick up Ronan Maher? I think he was on 3 balls in the first minute and a half straight away, and Kiladangan tried to avoid him. He sits so deep. What you need to do there is exactly what Kiladangan did. You need to start shooting from distance and try and drag him out or push someone up. Nina, in fairness, this year in League, they did something different with Mikey Heffernan in the middle of the field. They went 3 in the middle of the field to try and counteract that and go with shooting from distance. Did it work? No, and the Thurles came out, but just some special players that can read the game. And
have we lost him?
Yeah, for a moment.
I think we've lost him there for the moment, yeah. But like, sure, we chatted about this. Obviously, you weren't on the show last week. You were up at Centre Parks enjoying yourself up there in Ulster. But we had Johnny Kelly on just asking because he's managed against Ronan Maher before. And like, it's not an easy thing to do. Especially if the rest of your team is, like if you're up against a hard-working Thurles forward line who are going to force you to hit the odd 50-50 ball field, you nearly have to accept now and again he's going to have to hit ball, but we're going to hope that for the most of the rest of the game we'll get on top.
Plus he's elite inter-county player. Like he nearly sees the play coming half a second quicker before maybe some of the Kiladangan forwards are on the move looking for the ball into space. Like so, you could definitely sense in the first half there was an element of frustration with Kiladangan that the ball just wasn't sticking up there, and Ronan seemed to be coming out with the ball time and again. Definitely he wasn't as pronounced in the second half. Kiladangan made more of an effort to work the ball through the middle, and like Ty Gallagher and Declan McGrath were carrying it forward. Willie Connors was spraying it into the corner as well. Like Paul Flynn, probably no surprise that like Paul Flynn got 2 of his points in play in the second half, 1 from either corner. Like Billy Seymour as well got that cracking point late on. Like the longer the game on, Kiladangan certainly figured out that they played more of the game along the sidelines, and they got a bit of joy from it.
Yeah, and hopefully we have you solid now this time, Eamon. But would you have been?
You know what I figured out, guys? If someone rings my phone, it goes. Apologies, I have to tell people not to ring me when I'm on this.
You're too popular, and everyone in Tip should be watching this anyway, so no one has an excuse to be ringing you. So Eamon,
half 8 in the morning work calls, yeah.
Yeah, Eamon, 5,500 not even at that match. Why do you reckon?
I don't know. From like I was at the match I was at the match the day before. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the match the day before, lads, and you can see the neutrals that turned out for Brackens versus Upperchurch. So there was, I thought more it turned out genuinely for the match. I don't know, it's because Kiladangan the final.
No, I think unfortunately he'll have to pay that bill. He'll have to pay that phone bill. I know.
Yeah, no, it was actually, yeah, it's an interesting one. I put up the tweet online on Sunday, and I wrote a column about it this week. I think there's a number of reasons why the crowd was down. Like, even though the day was spectacular and stuff, like, you couldn't have asked for proper conditions for county final Sunday. Like, what was the first one? I suppose live TV. Like, it's I suppose the streaming element, and I suppose the people have sort of gotten the habit now, if it's on TV or streaming, I might stay at home. Like, and I think that definitely hurt things. There's an awful lot of other games going on in the county on Sunday. Like, you had the minor A final in the morning, and then there was a Camogie final in the afternoon involving Holy Cross and Mycarkey, like two neighbouring clubs of Sars. Like, they probably took a few people away, and then like there was cost factor too and things like that. And like, I suppose the thing that always disappoints me when Sars are in the final is how poor their support base is. And like, this is not a dig at Sars. It's just like, if you think about a town the size of Thurles, that they don't have a bigger support, for considering like hurling is number one and number two and number three. So I'm sure they've tried everything over the last few years to try and get more support. Like, they still have a hardcore support, and look, we saw it in Nina on Saturday. Like, the hardcore guys and ladies and kids will still go, and like they were in Nina on Saturday, and it was a cracking atmosphere in Nina for the Premier final. But look, I definitely think cost is another factor as well, particularly for neutrals. That 25 euros is a bit saucy. There's been a lot of criticism of the ticket prices in Tip this year, that they've gone up, and people have noticed that. And I suppose in a how would you say, when money is tight for people, like, they're particularly for neutrals, they're going to stay away. So like, it's a catch.
What's it for kids, Shane?
I think they're still free. I think under 16s are still free. Like,
okay.
So as far as I'm aware, I'm not sure whether it was a fiver or not. Maybe they were always under 16s free when I was growing up anyway. So
the other day, do you know if, in terms of the attendance, the 5,454 that they've counted, is that paying patrons? Or
I think everybody that comes into a certain style is clicked, whether you're free or not. Like, so I don't think there was any more than 5,454 there. Like, the old stand, the Canaan stand, looked pretty. There wasn't too many people there, and like, a good chunk of the Boherlahan and Golden supporters had left before the senior final once. Like, that's the thing, I suppose, is it's a change in times, that usually years ago, if you went to the county final, you went for the day. And now, if you're really only going to support your team, you don't really care about the other match like that.
Well,
Golden and Boherlahan left, that was it. Like, so.
Well, and you can understand that, because they want to go off and celebrate and all that, and they don't, like, you can't blame them for not caring about the senior final. I wouldn't have a word against them. But like, do we need to look at it, turning into more of an event? You look at the Offaly final up the road in Burr. Yeah. They had Monday playing music. Do you need a few extra incentives to make it?
I think I think it has to be. You sort of have to put it into a day. I definitely think Tipperary County Board have got to maybe at least, what can they control under their own remit? One is maybe that they don't sanction any other fixtures in the county on that day, or at least maybe there's a cut-off point. A match has to be finished by 1 o'clock, and so that people can get to Thurles for 4. Like, if to make, like, okay, they can't control Camogie or ladies football, that's separate, but within games under their own remit like that, you sort of maybe leave the day as free as possible, like, so for people, as many people to attend as possible. Maybe you go to Kiladangan and Thurles and you say, into the schools, free tickets for all kids. Kids are free, but maybe tickets for them to bring their parents and stuff. But then, look, as I was going to finish my point there, it's a catch-22 situation, because these county finals are financially huge for Tipperary County Board, for their coffers every year. Like, because look, these gate receipts help fund our inter-county teams to a large extent. Like, so, like, I suppose the two replays are a nice little help. I know that we're heading towards a deficit. There still will be because the books are closed for this year. So the money from these two finals won't be counted till next year's accounts. So, but look, it's worked out well for them again.
Yeah, you just hope that they're. I'm sure that they've looked at every which way of trying to.
I'd be surprised. Look, I'd be surprised if for the replay there isn't a discount in the price. Generally, if you go to a replay, the ticket prices fall a bit. Like so. So particularly, I think there's only one match on Sunday week. I think that's just the final replay. As it stands at the moment, there is no curtain raiser. So.
And like back to the point of it being on TV. Now this is. I don't know if this is live information, but recently enough, if you have a game that's live on TV, you'll be compensated to the tune of 10,000 quid.
Yeah.
It's 5,000 if it's deferred live.
Yeah.
When I look at let's say you do some crude maths, and let's assume everyone paid 25 that went in, and none of them were kids. That's 137 grand. So you'd be thinking if we got an extra 1,000 or 2,000 in, that far outstrips the 10 grand that we potentially get. So I'd say it's one of those things they're kind of trying to weigh it up all the time. And Ashley Bentley says Thurles are not well supported in the town. That's always been the case. So I'd be curious to get other thoughts and people from Thurles.
Yeah, it's actually something I maybe if there's any Thurles viewers watching, whether I actually wonder, I've always considered, is the fact that Thurles actually don't have a juvenile section, does that take away the connection to the juveniles? Like there is Thurles Og and probably the strongest juvenile club in the country, but there is this like Thurles Og wear red, Thurles wear blue. Do you officially get this connection as a Thurles Sarsfields person once you get to play at under 19 level? That's when you officially become a Sarsfield. Like, so I just wonder, has the fact that the way in modern society, do parents and kids of Thurles Og really connect to Thurles Sarsfields yet? Or will it take until they start playing for them at under 19 level for the connection to be established? I don't know, so. Okay,
well, look, I'm sure that's a topic we'll touch on again. Like the hurling was, even though, I did really, really enjoy this final, I have to say. And I suppose
strangely, I watched it, it came across better on the telly, actually, than at as Eamon said, the atmosphere was muted for an awful lot of the game.
Who impressed you? Just from my point of view, I thought Billy Seymour was held relatively well from play, but I thought that point he got towards the end from the sideline on his right-hand side was a cracking score. Paul Flynn, I used the term on our game there on Monday, he's just inevitable in county finals, 1-3. Sean Hayes, the way he ran straight up the guts of that Thurles final, probably exactly what he was told to do beforehand, brilliant. On the other side then, Stephen Cahill keeps popping up with scores, Dara Stakeham 3, Connor Stakeham 2. Those really good performances on both sides.
Oh, absolutely. No, in terms of the quality of play and definitely it was a high-class final. I would say, I'd still say very cagey for the most part. That the both sweepers were key, but I thought one player we didn't mention was Aidan McCormack. I thought he had a massive game, and he was my man of the match. And that wasn't because he top scored, but he got some key points. The 2 points from here were key. He assisted for a couple of cracking scores as well, and just thought his ability to drift into the middle of the field and pick up little pockets of space. The same with Stephen Cahill. It kind of caused Kiladangan bits of trouble in key periods of the game, and that middle third was so important because the respective inside forwards were kept pretty quiet, and I suppose that's the effect of the sweeper, like Dan O'Mara, Brian Malachy for Kiladangan, Owen Purcell, Paddy Creed and Billy McCarthy for Sars. So that very peripheral in the match, because there wasn't an awful lot of direct ball coming in, and two, when it did, they were outnumbered, and the ball was the defensive team were coming away with it.
I thought Joe Gallagher was very good in the back line for Kiladangan as well, and wasn't it that big catch and bursting out from the back that led to that goal for Paul Flynn in the second half? Did you feel what was it at the time? There was 3 points in it at the time. I think that goal leveled it. 3 points felt like a big gap at the time, so they did need a goal.
They did, yeah. I just felt that the game was pulling away slightly from Thurles, and I guess as tight as the game was, you always felt Sars were getting their points a little easier. That Kiladangan were working hard to score from, and maybe it's something that Kiladangan would probably feel that they can improve on. I thought Kiladangan were slightly sluggish for a lot of it. It just didn't seem to have the spark in their play, where Thurles looked lot more fresher, a lot more livelier. I don't know if I came across to tell you, I couldn't get the speed at which Thurles were moving the ball. Like they always seem to have two options to take a pass. Like they never really hung onto the ball for more than 1 or 2 seconds. Like there was no solo runs as such. There were anytime a Kiladangan defender was closing in, the ball was gone. Like it's like they were chasing shadows for a lot of it. Like they were really on point, and that'd probably be the frustrating thing for Thurles is that as well as they played, they still didn't win the match. Like so, Kiladangan will probably feel I think Kiladangan will feel that we've more to come.
Yeah, and like speaking with John O'Mara after the game, like is Willie Connors able to play a full 60+ minutes? Because if he is at this stage, like the quality of the hurler he is, there's no doubt he should start.
I'd be surprised now. I think that there's no doubt they're managing this ankle problem, and look, I don't think the plan was to send him in after 21 minutes. And
is it still the same one that he broke against Kerry at the start of last year?
I'm not 100% sure. I know this is the injury he picked up against Bordesley in the North semi-final. That's where this injury started. No, I think the Kerry one had fully cleared up as far as I'm aware. But I suppose the fact that he got through over 40 minutes on Sunday probably would lead you to think off 2 weeks rest that he should be starting. Look, if 100% fit Willie Connors starts that match, and look, the fact that he got through 40 minutes probably suggests that he will start the replay. And as I said at the start, fascinating to see now, will they start him as the sweeper and let Alan Flynn maybe push up on Stephen Cahill and try and do what Cahill Maloney did for Billy Seymour and try and negate him, or maybe get Declan McGrath to do that man marking role on Stephen Cahill and let Alan Flynn push up the field and use his athleticism. I thought he'd a big second half as well. He came out for some really big balls, so he did.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about both of these teams. They have options. A lot of time with club teams, you're like, we'll get the bare 15 out, and if plan A doesn't work, we don't have those options. But like you're just explaining there with Kiladangan, they definitely do. We can surely expect a bit more from, Paddy Creedon hadn't started the previous 3 games, I think it was. It was a quiet day for him. We can probably expect more from him, and a couple of the other inside forwards for Kiladangan, maybe Dan O'Mara and Brian Mallochny, were a bit quieter than we're used to.
Yeah, you like to think that I said particularly the inside forwards will depending on how the game starts out and maybe a bit more direct ball works out. Yeah, I thought Dan O'Mara and Brian Mallochny were slightly off the pace a lot of the game. I know I would have thought that there was that play in the second half where the high ball came in and Paddy McCormick, the Thurles goalie, batted up in the air, and I said, look, Dan O'Mara, you've got to take man ball and all there. Even if you can see the free out and you miss the ball, you've got to go show more urgency to go in there and get that loose ball. And he didn't. And I thought, yeah, it's a game that sort of passed him by a small bit. Like, we know Brian Mallochny we saw in the final in 2020 taken off, and then he comes back on and he's the hero. Like he only needs one. If he gets an early score the next day, he's probably on it. Like, and you look to the Thurles side. I think they have a call to make over Paddy Creedon. Like, Shawnee Butler came on, played very well, got a point. He was the lad that was sacrificed for Paddy's return. So Butler might have been saying, lads, I want to start. And of course, by the time Sunday week comes, their Premier Intermediate team will be finished. So if they wanted to delve in there and maybe take a Michael Cahill or Mikey O'Brien, like the Premier replays next Saturday. So win, loser, there'll be no draw. Win or lose next weekend, it's Thurles. It's that second team's final match, so they won't have another match beyond that.
Yeah, you could be facing penalties. You never know if last week's had to go by. But like Paddy Maher's last game as a player was the drawn county final a couple of years ago against Lockmore, and obviously they came up short in that game. He knows what it's like as a replay or to have a replay as a player. So he's obviously done brilliantly in his first season here. But
there's a small bit of history against Sarsfields and replays. They lost the 21 final. If I'm not mistaken, they might have lost 2 finals in the 90s to replays as well. So like they have that small bit of I wouldn't say a hoodoo, but I know it's only a small thing. But you know the way some things can be hyped up that say, oh, maybe Thurles can't win replays or something.
Well, you're hyping it up.
But I suppose the fact that in terms of the results, like they do have that to probably overcome as well. And I'm sure Paul Maher will turn that into a positive and say maybe in terms of use that as a bit of ammunition to focus the minds too.
Yeah, Rod Clifford says, was a very enjoyable senior final. Lots of fine hurlers on both teams. Very lucky to have such keenly contested hurling championships in all adult grades in hurling. And just another thing, and I presume neither team would particularly care at the moment, but like the likes of us can afford to look ahead. So the replay is going to be the 29th of October, as you said, at 3 o'clock. 2-week break, which, there's a lot going on next weekend. So you can understand.
3-week break.
Sorry. I mean a 2-week break before the replay from the draw and final.
Yeah.
And then it's the 18th or 19th of November that the winner takes on the Clare champions.
Perfect.
I think it has worked out ideal because you couldn't get a better test
you can go
in the meantime.
Yeah, you can go celebrate for a week, whoever wins the replay, and then we get down to brass tacks then for a Munster semi-final against Lorrha or Crusheen, which, look, it's eminently winnable. Like this is not saying that we're Lorrha or Crusheen will be poor. It's eminent, particularly when you look at the other side of the draw where you have Ballygunner and I would have said Beer Sheik, but Jesus, like they were struggling badly on Saturday. Like you think based on last weekend, you'd have to make Patrick's would have every chance in that Limerick final too.
Yeah, it just depends as well whether Will O'Donoghue is fit to play. Like I think he did the warm up last week, but
not ruling out Sarsfield's a Cork either. Like I thought, I'd say I thought. So I don't know whether you're a believer in fate. Sometimes I just thought the Teddy McCarthy factor was going to be so key, and like the year he died, that when Sarsfield got to the final, that there was no way they were going to be stopped, and they won it.
Yeah, that's true. The problem is they're coming up against a team that doesn't do emotion, and that's Ballygunner.
No, and it's in Walsh Park too. But look, I suppose they'll have had a 2 weeks, unlike Kilrowan, who really had no chance last year. Like they won't. I can't see them winning, but I think they'll be better set to put up a decent challenge. Like so.
Yeah, so it's great. We'll be able to preview the replay final again next week. Yeah. We should talk about the Premier Intermediate final that ended up in a draw, of course. Or do you want to talk about the relegation final first? JK Brackens holding on. Yeah,
should we go to relegation? Yeah, we can. Sure. Yeah, I don't mind. Whichever suits you.
Yeah, I mean, JK Brackens, 2 weeks in a row, they're after dumping Upper Church Drumban on their heads. Last week it was the football semi-final. This week by a point in the relegation final.
But the strange thing about it, last year, the very opposite happened.
Yeah.
They played senior football and hurling quarterfinals, and Upper Church won both. So that's what's it. Upper Church, the Brackens were only looking getting their own back.
Yeah, it was an unbelievably exciting game. It was like 18 points to 114. Upper Church hadn't been relegated, outside the top flight in 25 years, and they go down by the narrowest of margins. I know generally you end up, where you should be, but like realistically, are they an intermediate or Premier Intermediate team? Like they're very good. They've gone down. I think it's unfortunate.
I think it just shows you how tough how even the senior championship is. Like Upper Church they're mid finalists. They were a couple of minutes away from beating Thurles Sarsfields to win the mid championship. Like they were county semi finalists last year. It's bringing the Lorrha hat on. We went from Premier Intermediate finalists in 20 to being relegated in 21. Like it's a fine margin. Like if you lose your edge a small bit in Tip, things can happen very quickly. You can go from the bottom to the top, and like it's a tough one for Upper Church to take. But do I think they're the worst senior team in Tip? No, but you look at the power rankings all year. They have the bottom 8. They all could have beaten each other from day to day. Just the way things worked out last weekend, it was on the day, and you got to hand it to Brackens, like about 35 minutes with 14 men. Like the hurling they played when Shane Doyle was sent off was incredible. Like that period after half time, I would have thought maybe the bit of physicality Upper Church had in the conditions were good, but pitches are getting slightly slower, and that maybe they'll be able to power their way home. But no, like Brackens were full value for it, and that was without Tom Murphy, their full back, and Lyndon Fairbrother was super on the freeze, like, and big game from Conor Cadell too. So look, it was a huge win, and I suppose touching on the football final, it was a massive fill up. Like you think Brackens have it all to do next weekend against Commercial, so coming into that final off the back of that win, I'm sure they were probably flying high last weekend, and any bumps and bruises were they don't feel as bad after a win.
Yeah, like you said, Lyndon Brother, brilliant. He scored 11 points, 10 of them were frees. Conor Cadell with 3 points and Ormond with 3 points as well. I just, like Andrew Ormond, like I think he was in line to be called up to the team before and he got an injury. Was it a cruciate he did that time?
I don't think it was a cruciate. It might have been some element of a knee injury. I don't think he did a full cruciate. Look, anybody who's watched the show for a few years, I'm a big fan of his. I just think he offers us something different, like that lower center of gravity guy who loves taking on defenders. He's sort of one. I'm always wary if you look at the way Intercounty is going, and our manager looking for guys of more fit power and substance rather than skill. But I still like to think there's a place for an Andrew Ormond type player who can do something different in space,
Well, like you look at, someone who would be a relatively similar size profile, Peter Casey.
Yeah.
Is there, I don't know if he has Peter Casey's engine, but that's why you go to county training to try and get that. And who knows, because he definitely has the hands. On the other side, I mean, Keith Ryan, Jack Butler, Pat Ryan, Jared Grant, all very good for Upper Church. And if Brackens at the start of the year had everyone available, might they got out of the group stages? And if they're there and Upper Church are only a point off them, to me, both of these teams, they're the sort of sides who could easily be in the knockouts of Tip and be adding a whole lot.
That's it. You look, Paddy Cadell only really came back in the third group game. He came on in the second half against Nina, but I suppose that was really on. They were well behind at that stage, and it was hard for them to do anything. But Paddy Cadell is key to what they're doing. And look, I think JK Brackens are a club coming forward, at underage level. They're very, very competitive. They've a couple of cracking minors that should be coming on stream next year. But that's not to say they won't be involved in the next year, because as you say, the margins between maybe getting to a county quarter final and being in the relegation playoffs are so fine. You saw Clonmel or Rossmore winning, getting to a quarter final and still being in relegation. It's fantastic how it's brilliant not being able to know for sure who's going to win a game or win a championship. I'd agree with you that compared to maybe Waterford and maybe Kilkenny to a lesser extent, and God, I fear for what's going to happen in Offaly. Was Kilcormac look like they could take off now and win 12 or 15 in a row with what they have coming underage. I can see what they did to Shinrone last weekend.
Yeah, that was a fairly heavy pace. And we'll talk about your final there from the weekend. So Lorrha and Thurles Sarsfield's second team finished up 2-15 to your boys, 1-18 to Thurles Sarsfield's. I'd say you felt like you had the game in the palm of your hands late on, and Thurles found a way back.
Yes, yeah. I suppose, look, when you're 7 points up, 20 minutes to go, you think you're in a good place. But I suppose just after the second goal we sort of handed it back to Thurles. We were disappointed maybe with a play in the middle of the field. We had possession, we were turned over and caught short at the back, and they got the goal, and that gave them life. And look, from there to the finish, while I wouldn't say we were pretty comfortable, we weren't as maybe composed as we were in previous games. Look, that's finals for you. There's extra pressure, and look, we shot an awful lot of wides in the second half. A lot of them probably shots we would have ever taken on in other games but yeah, look, when you're 2 points up in injury time, you'd be hoping to see it out. Thurles got the possession. We were hoping maybe to try and slow down the ball and maybe create a few rucks. When in fairness, Thurles won the ball and created the opportunities and got the draw. So should we go at it again next Saturday? There was a little disappointment at the final whistle, but I think that was gone within an hour, because look, you hadn't lost anything. You just you go into a second half, and to be elements of our play, we think we can be an awful lot better the next day. But I'm sure Thurles will feel the same. There's an awful lot of guys in that team are young, and they'll have benefited a lot from that experience as well.
Yeah. Just what sort of a game was it? Was it open? I mean, the fact that it was in Nina, I'm sure it's a small bit softer than Thurles. Was it the right place for it? And I know that the replay is going to be in Nina as well.
Oh, look, it was. I thought the pitch was in good nick. I thought it looked perfect. From my point of view, I thought maybe the grass was a tad high for just to keep the speed of the ball going, but that's only a minor thing. But from I suppose in terms of you wanting the ball to carry, but no, I thought it was a gripping game all through. It was I thought Thurles had the best of the early flow. Back in the first 10 minutes, we had a bit of trouble in our half-back line midfield trying to curtail them. They were getting into pockets of space and causing us trouble. Once we brought our half-back line, half-forward line sat a bit deeper and crowded out that middle third, we got a bit of joy and got a great goal from Colin for Christopher Fogarty to go into a 3-point lead. And I know this isn't just a Lorrha thing, but I know from a lot of people talking that they couldn't understand how we didn't get a penalty shortly afterwards when Chris Fogarty was pulled down in the square, like just as blatant a penalty call as you could give, and it wasn't given. And maybe if we'd gone in, maybe we went in, I think it was a 4-up. If it had been 7 and 8, maybe we could have pushed on. But then early in the second half, we hit a couple of wides when we could have pushed out the score, and we got the second goal, a bit of a scrappy goal. And then Michael O'Brien came on and he turned the game. Like, we all know how good Michael O'Brien is. Like, he probably should still be hurling senior. Like, and he causes an awful lot of problems and stuff, and got 1-2 from play. And we were probably a little some of our tackling was probably a little over exuberant in the second half, just maybe a small bit. We probably need just to hold them up a small bit rather than fouling, and it kept them alive. And I said we missed a few chances too. And look, it's all is not lost really. Like, it's just it was always going to be hard to match the level of performance we gave against Cashel the week before. Like, it's hard to go. Like, we're very good at it, very sharp. I thought some of the sharpness wasn't there, so we're hoping maybe some of it will come back next weekend as well.
Yeah, and I know you're not jumping ahead, but I'm just curious, like, have you had any clarity yet that what happens in terms of, let's say the worst happens as far as you're concerned and Thurles B win, and let's say they decide not to go up senior next year. Is the Tipperary Senior Championship going to have 15 teams, or what's going to happen?
That's the plan, because the regulations don't allow for... The regulations as it stands don't allow for the relegation process to be voided. I'd like to keep Upper Church up there.
Realistically, right, Shane, like, I would think that the fair thing to do here, if they decide on the fly special sort of congress or whatever, that they just say, okay, so we're not going to have Thurles up, let's say they win. Lorrha and Upper Church just have a match there, and a winner stays up, because like Upper Church, you have gone down, ye have gotten to the final. Would that be the fairest thing of all? And get your comments in, folks.
Possibly could be, but you'd have to, if you do that, you have to, how do you ensure maybe some other clubs don't come and appeal it all the way to the DRA, say that the competition regulations for the year said this? Like, I do believe that the competition regulations for next year will be updated if this situation happens again, not just the senior, premier, intermediate, where if a team wins and they already have a team in the higher grade, that maybe the relegation process will be voided. Like, that's probably or there's a playoff between the runner-up and the team that's relegated. Like, that's probably the way they're going to get out of it. But as far as I'm aware, once a competition starts and those regulations are in place, you can't change them.
Yeah, because just
even if there's maybe a special convention could take place to tidy it up, and because like the Tip would have a problem where the Premier Intermediate potentially would have 17 teams next year, but I'm sure they get a derogation from Croke Park for that, because I think didn't Waterford and I think Clare have had that this year and last year, because they had no relegation in 2020 with COVID, and I think it left their senior with 17. So then I think they ended up relegating 2 teams this year to get it back to 16 for next year. They got a derogation. So
yeah, and like Tip could, potentially look at the idea of next year, right? 15 senior teams. We need a 16th for the to make 4 groups of 4. And could you kind of look at the the divisional championships and be like, how do we get an extra team to qualify through here? Anyway, look, we'll see.
Well, I suppose we'll know more next week once we know the outcome for sure of the replay. So I suppose I'd be thinking, look, if there is a flicking replay this weekend, geez, the rain that's falling all day and it's coming, and the next few days are not good. Nina can take a lot, but geez, there's an awful lot of rain coming in the next few days. So like, it's definitely going to be a different game on Saturday.
And the
perfect conditions last weekend.
The intermediate final last weekend also, Borlahan 3-15. Goal in Kilfeacle 15. Now, Tomas Ryan was brilliant. He scored 111 here. Dara Hickey, of course, rolling back the years. He got a goal. David Clark got the other one. Jack Leamy scored 14 points on the other side, including 11 frees. Thought he was very good. There was only one other scorer for Golden, and that was Sean O'Halloran, which kind of tells the story to some degree. But there was 2 red cards for Borlahan, and I have to say, I thought both of them were not red cards, because one of them seemed to be an unfortunate collision between a player's leg, I think, and maybe another lad's head, and then the other one seemed like there was a bit of a schmozzle between 2 players. But as far as I was concerned, not a whole lot was done, not a whole lot happened. There was an Oscar award going out to the player who was on the floor. So I thought from that point of view, Golden Kilfeacle were hard done by. But that's not to say that I didn't think Borlahan were the deserving winners at the same time.
Oh yeah, like once particularly the first one, even though I thought Golden really responded well after the first red, and I think they got it back to 2 points, and I think did Jack Leamy miss a big free maybe to bring it back to 1 or something. But then once the second red card, I think the game was probably turning away from him by the second red card. Borlahan reasserted themselves, but I suppose overall you look at the score, look at the scoring. Like Golden 15 points, Jack Leamy got 14. They just didn't have enough scoring threat. Like, and Borlahan just had a greater spread of scores. Like Tomas Ryan, centre forward, was outstanding. Shane Milahi, the full captain and full forward, of some cracking points in the second half. Dara Hickey got a goal. Just thought they were overall from 1 to 15. They had the better team, and look, they showed it at the weekend. And I just thought that it's remarkable. It's a stark thing. You're looking at senior and intermediate. The body shapes from senior to intermediate is stark, isn't it? Like you can see why. You can in body shape of all the players. You can actually notice the level straight away, can't you?
Do you know what? It's interesting you bring up that point, because I'm again involved with the UCD Freshers this year, and we took on DCU last night in a league match. And so it was the first time, 2 teams were putting out relatively strong. And DCU would have an awful lot of lads who are there on scholarship, which would suggest an awful lot of them are sort of high enough achieving lads with their, county under 20 squads and all that. And you actually can see the size difference even straight away at that level. Now, I think they won by 6 or 7, something like that at the very end. Got a late goal just to crown it for them. But you could even see the size difference then. And at this time of the year, well, any time of the year really, like if you've got that extra bit of gym work done, the gym, like people often, I wonder if there's still people out there who think gym work makes you slower. If anything, it makes you, no. The whole idea is to make you faster.
Once you're doing the right type of gym work, it's not about weights. It's about hurling is, what would you say, if you look at the body shapes of Aussie rules players, they're nearly what you need to be doing now. It's all about strength and power. You can be lean but powerful as well, if you know what I mean. Like that's their sort of the right body shape. And I'm sure, look, that's an element maybe Borlahan will be looking at over the next couple of years. I see Paul Tracy was their S&C coach this year. He was the S&C coach over Monaleen last year with Ombres Land. So like he knows his stuff. Like that's 2 years in a row. He's won a county championship in 2 different clubs. Like so, look, I'm sure they'll be trying to hold on to him, and they'll be looking to build on it. But like I think they'll no more than ourselves. Like I think they could go straight into Premier Intermediate and get maybe deep into the championship next year, because I think at the talent level.
It'd be interesting to know what did what's his name, Conor Gleeson, make of watching this game. Of course, he was coaching Golden Kilfeacle up, and then had always said he would step away.
We were at the Orion Stand press box, which is it's over our Corley area where all the Borlahan Jubilee members were behind the podium. And I remember we were looking at the first. I think the first goal went in, or the penalty, and I was looking at how with Conor Gleeson's reaction. Of course he celebrated. Look, he's a Borlahan man and stuff, and great day for them. And just thought it was probably one of the loveliest photographs we'll see this year is the cup presentation. And then so sometimes you just have a bland background of it, but then you have all these well-dressed Borlahan lads celebrate, arms in the air too. It's probably one of the better presentation photographs you'll see. But just, I suppose that the stars aligned for Borlahan this year with Jubilee and winning the county intermediate. And I suppose then having that match as the curtain raiser too, I suppose, ideally, I think they would have preferred to have the Premier Intermediate final as the curtain raiser, but with hurls involved in 2 finals, that wasn't going to happen.
Did you look at this match and think there's anyone here who's potentially county quality? I mean, Jack Leamy, he certainly has the shape of a man. And
I think he has some lovely touches. I think I'd be bringing him in now. I think just getting him in the centre because he has the build and he has the hurling. I just he definitely want to be getting in. Borlahan, like their best players, probably Tomas Ryan, but then he's sort of in that who we were talking about earlier. Andrew Ormond sort of character low, but Jesus, he's all the ability as well. So, but they do have a couple of guys like Gerard Dwyer at centre back. He was on the Cashel Harty Cup team this year. I'm sure in the next couple of years, he sort of, I think he has the size when he fills out. I think he's going to be a monster of a player. So like there's definitely guys in an awful lot of clubs you think are putting their hands up. Like my own club, I think Colin Fogarty's had a massive year for us. Like I thought he's really kicked on from under 20 level. Like he's definitely in that category of players that could be drafted in. But then on the other hand, like if we're looking ahead to Tip, and I suppose we're about 5 weeks away from competitive training starting. Like I don't think there's going to be massive turnover in the Tip panel. Like there will be some guys, Liam Calvin saw last year, okay, they're not going to make it. But he had 40 players last year. The guts, would he be getting rid of any more than 10 and finding 10 new faces? Like I don't think the whole panel needs to be gutted, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, definitely need to find a few lads to push for starting positions, but that mightn't happen overnight.
Yeah,
is Fogarty? What age is he now? Is he out of under?
He'd be 21.
So he's out of under 21. Yeah, likes it. Gerard Dwyer. I think he's still under 20, so he might be involved with Brendan Cummins' next year. I suppose then we should. Oh yeah, just to ask you about the junior final. Clonmel beat Ballynahinch. I'm not sure if you saw much of that. 113 to 2-9.
Yeah, I saw bits of that. It was 318 to 211 was the final score.
Right, I had the wrong scoreline there.
Yeah, it was. I suppose the 10-point margin was very harsh in Ballynahinch. Like there was only a point in it. I was only a point. It was 113 to 2-9. You had. That was the lead score around 47 minutes. And Shane McGrath and Joey Kelly, friendly fire collision for Ballynahinch. Shane McGrath ended up being forced to go off the field, and from there on, I think Clonmel ran away with it. Just that incident was Clonmel might have gone on to win it, but that incident definitely hurt Ballynahinch big time. Their captain Joey Kelly wasn't the same player after that. He played on. Shane McGrath was forced to go off, and that was the ball game. But overall, I thought Clonmel were the better team. They were getting that scores a bit easier. There's an awful lot of guys with senior experience that I presume a lot like Sophia O'Keefe and Pádraig Heffernan, and guys who would have won senior championships back in 2018, like senior championship medals. So it was a great win for Clonmel. And in terms of the junior championship, I think it's great that Clonmel are gone up to intermediate, because they were nearly too strong for the West Division. So that makes the West Division now more competitive for the likes of that and Cullen and Rockwell and the clubs that are down there. And definitely for Clonmel going forward, the senior level, having their second team playing intermediate is a good step up. So,
do you just for the football final, can we make any sort of a case for J.K. Bracken's horsing it into Clonmel commercials? Because like when they played in the final a few years ago and I was at it, it was done very, very early.
Yeah, it was. But I think there was a couple of circumstances that year. One was it was Bracken's first final, and they were a pretty young squad. And two, it was 6 days after they won the Seamus Arena Cup final, and that had to be celebrated a bit. And I suppose it was played on a Saturday lunchtime. I thought it was. They were set up for a beating that day, and it happened. But I definitely think they're a more mature team 4 years on. They haven't actually played each other an awful lot since, but they would have played.
Yeah, I think Shane has just frozen there, so
We're back live again.
You can hear me again, Shane?
Yeah. No, they met in the league final a couple of months ago, and Brackens won narrowly. But I think Brackens are better set up, and I don't think this will be one-way traffic. Commercials only beat my Rovers by 3 points in the semi-finals. So look, I think it'll be a tactical affair. I think Brackens will try and keep it tight for as long as they can. But I give Brackens I think Brackens will be very, very competitive in this one. Tom Murphy being injured and missing now, he'll be a big loss now. And just that bit of physicality in the defence, particularly up against that high-powered Clonmel attack. I just hopefully we'll get a good final. Like we had a reasonable final last year. It was ruined by the weather, but like you never felt Upperchurch had a chance because it was their first final, and Clonmel sort of blew them away in 10 minutes. But I think Brackens have more strings to their bow that can make things difficult for Clonmel.
Yeah, you just look at the list of county players that Clonmel have, though. I mean, just go through it. Michael Quinlivan, Sean O'Connor, Jack Kennedy, Kevin Fahey, Michael O'Reilly. It's very hard to keep into that.
No, but I would have thought there's, on the Bracken side, like Ian McRyan's a fabulous footballer. Jack Kennedy, Paddy Cadell, Connor Cadell. Like I think they have enough Cuba Bebbing and in goals. Like I'd be surprised if this is one-way traffic. And look, I think we'll have a good intermediate final too between Grange Mochler and Aherlow. And I know you'd love to see Grange Mochler do it. Like 3 finals they've lost in a row, and like it did for a club that's on the rise, that had good underage success. The longer they go on not winning finals, and look, the harder it's going to get. You look with the amount of clubs that are relegated from senior, like winning intermediate next year is going to be even harder. So it's a big year for them to go up. And I suppose the interesting thing for football finals weekend with Friday, and will we have a new manager watching these games at the weekend?
I was just going to say that to you. Yeah, Peter Keane is the man being looked at. Yeah,
it looks like it's 95% of the way there from I'm led to believe. It's just I think Tipperary Football Committee are not quite prepared to say it's over the line, but I think they're fearful of maybe something going wrong at this stage. But it looks pretty nailed on that he's coming, which will be a massive coup for Tip. Like from what I was looking into the last, was middle of June, I think David Power stepped down. That's 5 months ago. His name really wasn't in anything. I never heard his name mentioned, and I just seemingly, I wouldn't say he was never considered. I just think maybe the people in the Tipperary Football Committee, God, even if we approached him, he mightn't be interested. And seemingly, an approach was made, and he didn't say no. And of course, somebody was saying to me, God, if we'd known that at the start, we probably would have had a manager months ago. Like so, but it's strange the way things have worked out. It's an interesting one, because like if I'm not saying Peter Keane's a done deal, but if it is him, you're nearly going back to what John Evans was walking into back in late 2007, because we were back in the doldrums of Division 4 and looking for a bit of spark, and he brought that spark. And I'd be just hoping that I think a big name was hugely needed, because we need to generate interest in getting the best players back playing for Tip again. There's a lot of that 2020 team have walked away for different reasons, and they're still eligible to play. They're still at an age where they can play senior inter-county football, and maybe the hope is that a name like Peter Keane, who's managed Kerry, he's won 3 All-Ireland minor titles. He's very unlucky not to have won an All-Ireland with Kerry in a senior manager, and that he might be the guiding light of him. That if you get a phone call from Peter Keane to join the panel, it might be very hard for you to say no.
But do you feel like he had a particularly successful run with Kerry? I mean, he was over the team when they lost to Cork in that COVID semi-final against Cork. Like that.
Yeah. Gosh, look, was that a bit of a freak? The weather was terrible that day. Okay, they maybe to set up a little bit cautiously, and was that his? Yeah,
like he was stamped for that. He played basically 2 defensive wing forwards that day and invited Cork on them.
But then you go to 2021, and they were very close to beating Dublin in an All-Ireland final. Like I suppose the thing with Kerry is a lot like Tipperary hurling. If you don't win an All-Ireland, you're a failure. And I suppose people are looking at him in Kerry. You had David Clifford, you had Shawnee O'Shea, but like were they mature enough at that stage? Were maybe Jack O'Connor was lucky in that 2022 that they're just coming on the right side of maturity as well. Like so, and look, maybe you'd have to think there's more upsides than downsides for that. The only thing is, like, he's coming from Cahersibeen, like nearly just as far away in Kerry as you could come. I don't know how he's going to manage it. He owns a supermarket in.
He runs a Super Value, I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's a Cahersibeen or is there a different town in Kerry, but
well, look, it's 3 hours 15 minutes to drive from Cahersibeen to Thurles.
It's I'm going like so.
Where else would they train if they were to train somewhere closer within Tip?
Sure. Sure, it's hard to know. Like, sure, you need the training grounds and good floodlights, and that's probably it, really. Like, so. But look, I'm sure if they do get it over the line, if it is Peter Keane, look, he'll have to make it work. I'm led to believe that if he does come, a lot of his backroom team will be Tipperary centred, like, and that maybe, just say if they get together 3 or 4 times a week, that Peter Keane maybe might only come the 3 times. Like, he doesn't have to be there every night, if you know what I mean. Like, and that doesn't mean he's not fully committed. Like, it just, I suppose, look, maybe it's something that in the course of the discussions that Tip are willing to say that, maybe, look, you not being there, maybe the odd night is not, you being here 80% of the time is better than you being here none of the time, if you know what I mean. Like, so.
Yeah, look, definitely in terms of credentials, I think Tipperary would be very, very lucky to get him involved.
I just think we needed a shot in the arm, because, like you say, if you've got a low key appointment, like, what does that? Just say if you were a guy that is half thinking of committing next year, or maybe a guy that maybe was wishy-washy about if an approach came, like, you'd probably find it hard to say no to him if he rang you.
Yeah, and also, like, I know you mentioned there that he might have some Tipperary people involved in the background, but I'm sure he'd have somebody from Kerry involved as well, and the people that he could potentially call upon as well might bring that excitement that you're talking about into the panel.
And I'm sure maybe as the thing goes along, he might. He'd nearly have to have a Kerry confident that he'd be able to bounce ideas off of, and maybe as the time goes on, he might, and even just have somebody in the car with him driving up and back and tossing forward and back ideas as well. Like, so, I'm sure in time he probably will have somebody. Like, I can't remember who his selectors were in when he was there, a senior manager, but.
I feel like Diarmuid Murphy, but that could have actually been Eamon Fitzmaurice. But sure, look,
he could have been Diarmuid Murphy instead with a couple of different.
Yeah. So the Tipperary Camogie final is on this weekend at the Camogie grounds. Clonmel Rossmore against Drum and Inch. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's the 4th year in a row the 2 teams have met in the final. Drum are going for 5 in a row. Clonmel still haven't won it. This is their 5th final, as far as I know. They've lost the last 4. Lost one to Burge to O'Hara a few years ago as well. So, like, these, they're by far and away the 2 best teams in Tipperary. And, like, in fairness to Clonmel, they're getting closer and closer every year. But I tell you, Drum and Inch don't look like they're getting any weaker. Like, so, and but then both semi-finals, like, Drum were pushed to the pin of their collar by Thurles Sarsfields, and Clonmel pushed to the pin of their collar by Borrisoleigh. So, look, you'd love to see Clonmel do it, see him being a first-time champion. They'd knocking on the door, and they'd finally knock it down. I'd love to see them do it, but I tell you, Drum, just that they're a big day team, and maybe they might just have that depth. Just panel might be a little too much, but look, I think everybody outside the Drum and Inch would probably love to see Clonmel finally get over the line. And that's what the likes of Cottervan to be a county senior champion would be. They'd like to wish like one of our greatest ever players. Like,
yeah, and you know, a lot of the time the narrative is that they're too reliant on her. But again, I know it's a good while ago now in the group stages. But when they played without her against Borrisoleigh and Burris, I thought their forwards looked really, really good. So maybe a few more of them are taking it on their shoulders.
But the strange thing, the one was then, if you go to the semi-final against Borrisoleigh, she scored 13 or 16 points. It's strange how we've seen it over the years. You take the star player out of a team, the other players suddenly
they have to
step up, and then but when the star player's back, to kind of leave it to the star girl. Like, there's definitely, as you say, the first match against Borrisoleigh, Clonmel definitely showed that the rest of the forwards showed that they're more than good enough to contribute themselves.
Yeah, and then the intermediate final is going to be Shannon Rovers against Moneygall.
Yeah, this will be a cracking final. You know, Ballina, the Rovers, they've lost the last 3 finals. Like this is win. I wouldn't say win or bust, but like they've really got to get over the line this year. But it's like in fairness, the last couple of years they would have been underdogs in the finals against the likes of Thurles Sarsfields and Borrisley, or maybe not. They might have been favourites last year, but Thurles Sarsfields and Kickham's when they went up, like it's their time. I would think. Like Moneygall have come up from Junior A and ducks to water in an intermediate final, and look, the ferocious experience in their team. Like still have Mary Ryan there, and like that bit of experience, the likes of Niamh Larkin of she plays with Offaly. Like they have a lot of experience too. Like Shannon Rovers' toughest game, like they've won all their matches to the final. Their toughest game in the group stage was against Moneygall. It was only a 2-point game, so I think that just shows you how potentially tight this matchup could be. So I'd say you're probably this is what Sunday at 1:30 in the Rag. I think it'll be tight one again. Like it's a lot like Shannon the Clonmel. You'd love to maybe see Shannon Rovers finally break into senior level, and I do think they're good enough to be up at senior level. Last weekend you saw Nina relegate, and Nina have struggled at senior level, and they're probably a stint at the intermediate will do them no harm. I think Shannon Rovers would, or Moneygall, if it is Moneygall, I think both teams could go up senior and make an immediate impact.
Yeah, okay, so we're pretty much done in terms of previewing and review and everything going on in Tip. Anything else you want to touch on before we finish up? Of course, the Nina Guardian paper is out, so have a look.
No, plenty in it this week between all the finals and previews. I thought I suppose the interesting thing last weekend, and what your thoughts was the farce that was up and down, and like Jesus, like for where do you go with, like, you've always heard of clubs maybe being pissed with a referee appointment, but I've never seen a club go that far as to try and get the referee removed.
Yeah, and I think the county board is incredibly weak to capitulate to it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what sort of precedent does that set? Oh, we don't like that referee. He gave a few bad decisions against us. Let's make a stand here and throw everything into a farce.
Well, did Paul Falloon not make the decision late to say I'll step away like that? He was probably on a hiding to nothing. Like if he did,
but you have to be stronger than that. Like, and I know the pressure is fierce or whatever, but like, if you're going to be the referee, you're going to get some flack. You're used to it. Just you know, you have to accept it.
Yeah.
Then again, you get paid enough.
I suppose just that if he made one bad call against Kilcoo, he was going to be savage. Like, and look, I think the right thing was probably that David Goff didn't take it on. Like that would have been breaking a picket line. Like, thank God he saw some sense there. Like, but that's the problem going forward is now that Paul Falloon can probably never be appointed to a Kilcoo game, and Kilcoo have won now. It's like they've not only the game, but they've won for future. That I just think it's bad form that a club can more or less decide who can referee their matches. Like, so
yeah, it's a very, very bad look. And by the way, just back to the the rule I mentioned, the freshers there. Last night was the first competitive fixture that we competed in.
Oh, of course, yeah. How did the hand pass rule go?
I don't mind the hand pass one. You remember a couple of years ago, Conor O'Donovan had first kind of pushed for the idea, and I'd be fair enough. I'd be open enough to say that I kind of dismissed it out of hand straight away. But I think there's a certain amount of merit in it. Players at first were quite confused with it. There was like you were saying to them, and we were only told a couple of minutes beforehand that instead of it being a throw ball, it was going to actually be a free.
Yeah.
So like it was going to be a clash ball if you'd kind of hand passed it instead. But anyway, the way it panned out is I found an awful lot of players, because we were saying to them, remember now, you can hand pass with the switch hand pass, or you can maybe do the little mini brick flick, or maybe just hand pass it straight off the stick. And a lot of players, a few lads by mistake, they ended up hand passing. And we said, look, we're not going to hand it. That it'll take a while. But a lot of lads were doing the brick flick then in situations where it wasn't really on, rather than just hand passing directly off the stick. Like if I see you 2 yards away, I want to hand pass it, but just quickly drop it on the stick and then hand pass it. So it probably looks a little bit ungainly at times. But I don't really mind that rule. I'm happy to give it a bit more of a chance.
Yeah.
The puck out thing, as I'd said to you before, you have to be outside your own 45. When you take a puck out on your own side, one of your own players can't touch it until it passes the near 45. That basically led to both teams putting everyone outside the 45 for every puck out. So that led to more bunching and breaking and all that kind of stuff, which means more rucks. So I'd say that one will be binned pretty soon.
Yeah. I was actually having a discussion with somebody over the weekend about Jesus, I don't like throwing, but I'm not sure what can be done to eradicate it. I don't remember when about 50 the hand pass rule in Gaelic football and caused carnage. Like there needed to be a clear and obvious. It needed to be an underhand thing, and then they more or less washed it down and say once it's a forward palm or once it's a forward movement out of the hand, it was legal. I can only see it going one way in time, is that rolling off the hand or something. It's going to be how would you say it? They'll make what's illegal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I just think it's gone too far. And I don't know if you've seen the trial rules they're bringing into Camogie, and a hand pass is one of them, and it says a clear striking action. I think that's the only way you're going to get around it. And like this thing of, like, I know particularly like Derek McGrath was saying, they're doing it so quick, but doing it so quick is fine. But if there's not a clear striking action, I think that's the only way you get around it for me. If it's not obvious that you have a clear, so even if it comes off your hands by 2 millimeters, that's not a clear striking action. I think that's the only way you get around it.
Yeah, like the hurling one now. I do think the trial is okay.
Yeah,
it's not really. It didn't. I don't feel like it hugely changed the amount of short play that was in the game. Yeah. But it meant a few times lads were trying to transfer the ball in an ungainly way. You know, when a little brick flick was probably their only option, you know, they were doing that because they couldn't hand pass. So there's times when a hand pass is good and it's done in tight areas and it's nearly, you know, good play. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be the solution. I'm not sure it changes things massively. But then again, it makes the life easier for the referee. And there's no throwing balls, so it's probably better than what's there.
Yeah.
I think there'll be just as many short balls because players will just do the little mini flick or the hand pass off the stick. Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, I know. Just coming back to the proposed rule change, Camogie. Like, in fairness, the ladies are brilliant in terms of maybe thinking outside the box. And I don't know if you noticed, this clean catch. They're going to trial a thing in Camogie where players can call a mark from a clean catch past the 45-yard line on the team's own puck out. It's an interesting one. It might lead to more high fielding in Camogie and getting clean possession. It might slow the game down, but it's an interesting thing. I'd be interested to see how that works now. Like, it's thinking outside the box, really.
Yeah, I think if they were to do that in hurling, and it's an indirect free, so you can't just win a mark and pop it over the bar from outside the 45. I think in hurling, as in the male code, you'd probably have to say it has to be outside the 65 or beyond the bar 65, because and even at that, what value would you really get? I mean, imagine stopping up the game then for an indirect free. Not sure.
Probably not, but I know. I just thought it's innovative. They might. At least it's been tried. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, so.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for the show this week. Don't forget the paper is out now. We'll be back again next week, Shane, and best of luck this weekend.
Cheers. Talk to you later.